Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sleep Space. Tonight, we will talk about a fascinating question that has captured human imagination for centuries. What are dreams, and could they be more than random images and thoughts in our minds? Could they, in fact, be glimpses into hidden layers of reality, possibly even alternate versions of the universe? Throughout history, dreams have been seen as portals, messages, and even warnings from other worlds. In this journey, we will explore how modern science, ancient philosophy, and speculative physics all collide in the mysterious landscape of dreaming. Dreams have always been mysterious, but in the modern era, neuroscience has given us a basic framework for what happens when we dream. During the REM phase of sleep, the brain becomes highly active, almost as active as when we are awake. The difference is that sensory input from the outside world is mostly shut off, leaving the brain to generate its own reality from within. This is why dreams can feel so vivid and lifelike. We see, hear, and feel with astonishing realism, even though our bodies are lying still. From a scientific point of view, this is the result of neural networks firing, memories replaying, and the brain trying to weave together a story. Yet this explanation doesn't fully answer why dreams sometimes feel so profound, so real, and so unlike anything we have consciously experienced. One of the most intriguing possibilities is that dreams might not be just creations of our own minds, but windows into something larger. The idea that dreams connect us to alternate realities is not new. Ancient cultures often saw dreams as a way of traveling beyond the ordinary world. The Greeks believed dreams could reveal truths from the gods. Many indigenous traditions considered dreams as journeys of the spirit, where the dreamer could move between different planes of existence. What is remarkable is that even though these traditions arose independently, they often shared the idea that dreams gave access to something beyond personal imagination. Now, let's bring in modern physics. Over the past century, physics has uncovered strange and counterintuitive aspects of the universe. Quantum mechanics suggests that reality is not fixed and definite until it is observed. Instead, it exists as a spectrum of probabilities. The famous thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat, both alive and dead until observed, illustrates this unsettling principle. Some physicists have expanded this idea into what's called the many worlds interpretation. In this view, every possible outcome of a quantum event actually occurs, but in different branching universes. There isn't one reality, but countless versions unfolding simultaneously. If we take this seriously, then there may exist universes where events played out differently, where history took another path, where you made different choices, where another version of you is living a different life. But if such parallel worlds exist, could dreams somehow give us access to them? One hypothesis is that in the dreaming state, when our brain is less tethered to sensory input, it may be able to tune into patterns of information that normally remain hidden. Think of the brain as a receiver. When awake, it is mostly tuned to the frequency of this world, focused on survival and daily tasks. But in dreams, when those filters are loosened, perhaps the receiver can pick up faint signals from other dimensions. This could explain why some dreams feel eerily like memories from another life, or why they sometimes contain information that seems beyond our personal experience. For example, there are countless stories of people dreaming of places they have never visited, yet later recognizing them. Some describe meeting people in dreams who seem to have independent existence, as though they are not just projections of the dreamer's mind. Others report dreams that seem to predict future events, which challenges the idea that dreams are purely the byproduct of memory replay. While science usually attributes these to coincidence, pattern recognition, or subconscious processing, the mystery remains why they can feel so unexplainably accurate. From a neurological perspective, dreaming involves the interplay of memory, imagination, and emotional processing. The hippocampus replays fragments of experiences, the amygdala colors them with emotion, and the neocortex tries to weave them into narratives. This explains why dreams often appear bizarre, shifting rapidly between scenes and logic. But what if this neurological activity is also capable of creating a temporary bridge to other realities? After all, our brain is made of quantum particles, and though most scientists argue that quantum effects average out at the scale of neurons, there is still debate. Some researchers, like Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff, have proposed that quantum processors within microtubules in brain cells could contribute to consciousness. If true, then the mind may be directly linked to the quantum fabric of the universe, where multiple possibilities coexist. This raises the tantalizing possibility that dreams are not just psychological events, but quantum events, moments where the mind brushes against the edges of parallel worlds. The strangeness of dream logic might then be the mind struggling to translate unfamiliar realities into familiar symbols. What looks like nonsense may actually be a distorted echo of a reality that our waking mind cannot fully comprehend. Consider also the concept of the multiverse in cosmology. Inflation theory suggests that our universe may be just one bubble in an endless cosmic foam. Each bubble could have different laws of physics, different histories, even different versions of us. If consciousness is not confined to the brain, but is instead a fundamental aspect of reality, as some theories propose, then perhaps it can shift its perspective between these bubbles during altered states like dreaming. Skeptics argue that dreams are far too chaotic to be reliable glimpses of anything real, but chaos itself might be part of the process. Just as a radio signal might be full of static when barely tuned, our dream experiences could be the scrambled reception of another universe's frequency. Most of the time, the brain interprets it as nonsense, but occasionally clear patterns shine through. This could be why prophetic or lucid dreams stand out with such vividness. Lucid dreaming in particular is worth examining here. In a lucid dream, the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can sometimes influence the dream's course. Some lucid dreamers report encountering environments and characters that feel entirely independent of their imagination. These dream worlds can display consistent geography and rules across multiple dream sessions, which is strange if they are purely random mental fabrications. Could it be that lucid dreaming allows a person to stabilize the tuning, holding the connection long enough to explore a coherent alternate world? Psychology offers another angle. Carl Jung proposed the existence of a collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of archetypes and symbols that all humans tap into. From this perspective, dreams connect us not to parallel physical universes, but to a shared dimension of mind. But perhaps these ideas are not mutually exclusive. The collective unconscious could itself be part of a greater multiversal structure, where information flows between realities in symbolic form. When we dream of archetypal figures, perhaps we are seeing echoes of other versions of ourselves or humanity playing out across countless worlds. There are also near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences that resemble dreams but feel even more real to those who experience them. People often describe moving through tunnels, encountering other beings, or visiting landscapes that do not seem to be products of their own memory. Some scientists explain these as brain-generated hallucinations under stress, but others argue they may represent consciousness briefly detaching from the physical body and perceiving another layer of existence. If these reports have any truth, they may lend weight to the idea that consciousness has access to realms beyond the physical, and dreams may be a gentler form of the same phenomenon. Throughout this exploration, it's important to balance speculation with skepticism. Dreams certainly serve known biological functions, consolidating memories, regulating emotions, and stimulating creativity. They can be explained without invoking parallel universes, but at the same time, human experience contains enough anomalies, enough moments of inexplicable clarity or synchronicity, that the door remains open to wilder possibilities. Our understanding of the universe is still incomplete. Quantum physics itself was once dismissed as absurd, yet it proved to be the most accurate description of the microscopic world. Who is to say that consciousness, one of the deepest mysteries we face, may not eventually be linked to realities beyond our own? As we continue this journey, we'll dive deeper into how physics, neuroscience, and human experience intertwine, painting a picture of dreams not only as windows into the mind, but potentially as portals into unseen dimensions. Whether symbolic, psychological, or literal, dreams challenge the boundary between what is real and what is imagined, and in doing so, they may hold clues about the true nature of reality itself. When we begin to examine the possibility that dreams are more than just random neural activity, we have to start asking questions about the very nature of consciousness itself. After all, if consciousness is only a byproduct of brain chemistry, then dreams are just hallucinations generated by our neurons. But if consciousness is something deeper, something fundamental, then dreams could be doorways into aspects of reality that science has barely begun to recognize. The traditional scientific view of dreams is straightforward. They are the result of the brain processing memories, emotions, and sensory fragments while we sleep. The mind, stripped of external input, tries to make sense of internal chaos. In this model, the strange dream logic we experience is simply the brain trying to build stories out of incomplete fragments. For instance, you may see a friend's face mixed with a stranger's body, or find yourself in a city you know, but with impossible architecture. According to neuroscience, this is the brain stitching together fragments of stored memories with no regard for consistency. But while this view explains the mechanics, it doesn't explain the subjective depth of dreams, the feeling that sometimes they are more real than waking life. This is where the idea of parallel universes becomes fascinating. Imagine that consciousness is not confined to the brain, but instead is like a flashlight, shining into the physical world through the body. Most of the time, the beam is steady, focused on this universe. But during dreams, the beam flickers and shifts, occasionally illuminating other realities. What we call dream imagery could then be glimpses of parallel lives, filtered through the language of our subconscious. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, first proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957, provides a scientific framework that makes this idea plausible. According to this interpretation, every quantum event spawns multiple branches of reality. In one branch, you took a different job. In another, you never met a close friend. In yet another, entire civilizations rose and fell under different histories. If all these possibilities exist, then there are countless versions of you, each living out different paths. When you dream, perhaps your consciousness briefly syncs with one of these versions, giving you a fleeting experience of another life. Interestingly, this could explain why some dreams feel strangely familiar, as though you are remembering rather than imagining. People often describe dreams where they live entire lives in other settings, complete with consistent geography, relationships, and even personal histories that don't match their waking selves. Some wake up feeling like they left behind another home, another reality. If these were purely inventions of the subconscious, why would they feel so coherent and emotionally powerful? Could it be that they are memories, not from this life, but from another? To dive deeper, let's consider what physics says about the structure of the universe. One idea is that the universe is fundamentally informational. Theoretical physicist John Wheeler coined the phrase "it from bit," suggesting that at its deepest level, reality may be built from information rather than matter or energy. If so, then consciousness might be able to access information beyond the boundaries of a single universe. Dreams could act as a kind of data stream, where the mind downloads fragments from other branches of reality. This would explain why dreams sometimes present us with knowledge or images that seem alien to our own experience. Another compelling clue lies in the phenomenon of déjà vu. Déjà vu is the uncanny sensation that we have already lived a moment before, even though we know it is happening for the first time. Some neuroscientists believe this is caused by a glitch in memory processing, where short-term experiences are mistakenly classified as long-term memories. But others argue that déjà vu may hint at something more mysterious, a bleed-through from another reality, where the moment did happen before, but to another version of you. Dreams, in this context, might be the more elaborate form of the same phenomenon, extended overlaps between universes that normally remain separate. There is also the question of dream precognition. Across history, people have reported dreams that seem to predict future events. In some cases, the details are so precise that coincidence seems unlikely. Skeptics often argue that these are cases of selective memory. We remember the hits and forget the misses. But even with this caution, there are enough compelling accounts that they cannot be dismissed entirely. If time itself is not linear, but instead part of a larger multi-dimensional structure, then perhaps in dreams, consciousness can step outside of ordinary chronology and glimpse future possibilities. This would not mean the future is fixed, but that multiple potential futures exist, and dreams occasionally tune into one of them. From a psychological standpoint, one could argue that dreams simply reveal our deepest fears, hopes, and intuitions, which then manifest as symbolic stories. For example, if you are anxious about an upcoming decision, you may dream of standing at a crossroads. But what if these symbols are not only internal metaphors, but also reflections of actual events playing out in other branches of reality? The crossroads dream might not just be your subconscious processing a decision. It could be your mind brushing against the version of you who already made one choice, while another version chose differently. Lucid dreaming provides further intrigue. When dreamers become aware they are dreaming, they sometimes report an incredible sense of freedom, as if the laws of physics no longer apply. They can fly, walk through walls, or summon objects out of thin air. But beyond these fantastical abilities, some lucid dreamers report stable, persistent dream worlds that they can revisit across multiple nights. These worlds have consistent landscapes and characters, almost like alternate dimensions. If dreams are purely random, why would they exhibit such consistency? Could lucid dreamers be consciously navigating a parallel universe? Another phenomenon worth exploring is shared dreaming. Though often dismissed as coincidence, there are accounts of multiple people dreaming of the same place or event and later confirming the similarities. If consciousness can connect across space and time in ways we don't yet understand, perhaps dreams provide a meeting ground between different minds. But if this is true, then what they are meeting within may not be an imaginary space at all, but a shared dimension of reality. The physics of consciousness is still one of the most mysterious frontiers. Some scientists argue that consciousness emerges entirely from complex neural interactions, while others suspect it may be a fundamental property of the universe, like space and time. If the latter is true, then consciousness may be capable of extending beyond the physical brain. In that case, dreams could be moments where this extension becomes more apparent. The brain might act as a filter, narrowing consciousness to this particular world for practical reasons. But during dreams, the filter loosens, and the wider reality bleeds through. We also need to consider the role of imagination. Human imagination is extraordinarily powerful. It allows us to invent technologies, art, and stories that have never existed before. But where does imagination come from? Is it truly generated by the brain, or is it tapping into a larger field of possibilities? Some thinkers suggest that imagination is not invention, but reception, that our minds tune into a universal field of ideas. If so, then dreams might be the clearest expression of this process, where the mind freely explores realities that are real somewhere, even if not in this world. One way to visualize this is through the metaphor of a library. Imagine reality as an infinite library with countless books, each representing a different universe. In waking life, we are reading one specific book, focused on one storyline. In dreams, however, the library card catalogue opens up. Our minds wander into other books, flipping through pages of different stories. Sometimes the pages are jumbled together, which is why dreams often appear fragmented. But occasionally, we read whole chapters, experiencing coherent worlds that feel real. When we wake, the book closes, but the memory of that other story lingers. Critics of these ideas emphasize that dreams can be explained without invoking parallel universes. The brain is adept at creating simulations. After all, when we daydream, we construct vivid mental images, sometimes of places we've never been. Virtual reality technology today can immerse us in lifelike environments, yet they are entirely digital constructs. If the brain can simulate a world with such realism, then why should we assume dreams require any external source? This is a valid challenge, and it reminds us that we should be cautious not to leap to conclusions. Yet the emotional intensity, the consistency, and the occasional prophetic quality of dreams continue to raise questions that standard explanations struggle to answer fully. The real challenge lies in testing these ideas. How could we scientifically prove that dreams connect to parallel universes? One possibility would be to systematically study shared dreams, collecting detailed accounts and looking for patterns that cannot be explained by coincidence. Another would be to examine dreams that appear to predict future events and analyze whether the rate of accuracy exceeds chance. While these studies would be difficult to design, they are not impossible. Ultimately, the question is not just about dreams, but about the nature of consciousness itself. If consciousness is limited to the brain, then dreams are internal illusions. But if consciousness is more expansive, then dreams could be windows into a multiverse far beyond our waking perception. In either case, the mystery of dreaming challenges us to rethink what it means to be conscious and what it means to inhabit reality. For centuries, philosophers have debated whether reality is fixed and external, or whether it is shaped by perception and consciousness. Dreams force us to confront this question because they create experiences that feel absolutely real while we are inside them, yet dissolve when we wake. If something can feel real without being part of physical reality, then what does that say about the boundary between the two? One line of thought is that dreams reveal how fragile our definition of reality really is. When we are awake, we rely on sensory input to convince us that the world around us is solid and objective. But our senses are not infallible. They are filters evolved for survival, not for truth. The eyes see only a small fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. The ears hear only a narrow band of frequencies. The brain processes this limited input and constructs a model of the world, and we call that model reality. In a dream, the brain does the same thing, only with internally generated input. It constructs a world model out of memory, imagination, and perhaps other unknown sources. That world feels real too, even though it is not part of the waking environment. The fact that both waking and dreaming realities are brain-generated models suggests that the line between them may not be as rigid as we assume. Some neuroscientists even propose that waking life is itself a controlled hallucination. The brain is constantly predicting sensory input and then correcting itself based on feedback. In this view, reality is never directly perceived, but is always a kind of dream we collectively agree upon because it is consistent. If waking life is a shared dream stabilized by external input, then nighttime dreams might be private dreams, potentially drawing from the same pool of reality but in less constrained ways. This means that the vividness of dreams is not proof of their unreality. Rather, it shows how easily the mind can construct worlds indistinguishable from waking life. Now, if reality itself is a kind of construction, then the idea of parallel universes becomes more approachable. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics says that every possible outcome exists somewhere, branching infinitely. But another theory, called the holographic principle, suggests that our universe itself may be a projection from a deeper layer of reality. According to this idea, the three-dimensional world we live in is like a hologram, generated from information stored on a distant surface. If the universe is a hologram, then perhaps dreams are glimpses of other projections, other holograms woven from the same informational fabric. To make this clearer, imagine that reality is like a vast ocean of information. Each universe is a wave pattern on the surface, rising and falling according to its own rhythm. Our waking experience is one particular wave, steady and consistent. But when we dream, perhaps our consciousness sinks beneath the surface and brushes against other wave patterns. What we perceive as strange dream landscapes may be fragments of other universes rising into our awareness for a brief moment. One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence comes from the experience of dream time. Many people have reported dreams that seem to last hours, days, or even years, only to wake and find that mere minutes have passed in waking time. There are even accounts of people living entire lifetimes in dreams, complete with families, jobs, and histories, before waking to their actual life. How do we explain this compression of time? One possibility is that the brain processes dream events at a different speed, condensing long narratives into short bursts. But another possibility is that consciousness actually enters a different timeline during dreams, where events unfold at a different pace. If parallel universes exist with their own clocks and rhythms, then dream time might simply reflect the time of another world. Philosophy also gives us insights into this puzzle. Plato's allegory of the cave suggested that human beings live like prisoners, mistaking shadows on a wall for reality. To Plato, true reality was beyond what the senses could perceive. Dreams can be seen as a modern version of this allegory. Are they shadows of other worlds flickering across the walls of our minds? Eastern traditions have also long suggested that waking life itself is a kind of dream. In Hindu philosophy, the concept of Maya describes the world as an illusion, a veil that hides deeper truth. The Buddhist idea of dream yoga teaches practitioners to use dreams as a tool for awakening, recognizing that both waking and dreaming are states of mind, not ultimate reality. These traditions imply that dreams are not separate from reality, but a part of a continuum of perception. Modern reports of dream experiences often blur the boundary between the psychological and the metaphysical. For example, there are well-documented cases of people dreaming of accidents or events that later occurred with striking accuracy. Others dream of inventions or creative ideas that later prove valuable in waking life. The chemist Auguste Kekulé famously discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail. Paul McCartney has said that the melody for Yesterday came to him in a dream. These examples show that dreams can act as channels for knowledge or insight that the conscious mind could not reach directly. But where does this knowledge come from? If dreams are merely brain noise, why do they sometimes produce groundbreaking discoveries? If instead they tap into a wider informational field, then perhaps what we call invention or inspiration is really a kind of reception, downloading patterns from other realities where those ideas already exist. There is also a mysterious category of dreams called mutual dreams, where two or more people report sharing the same dream environment or interacting with each other in dreams. While skeptics attribute this to coincidence or suggest that the dreamers unconsciously influenced each other, the consistency in some accounts is striking. If such events are real, they suggest that dreams are not isolated experiences in private brains, but shared spaces accessible to multiple consciousnesses. This would imply that dreams exist in some kind of external reality, perhaps not physical in the ordinary sense, but real enough to be jointly accessed. To understand how this could work, let's borrow an analogy from computing. Imagine that consciousness is like a network of computers, each representing an individual mind. Normally, each computer runs its own program, isolated from the others. But sometimes, through shared protocols, the computers can connect to the same server and interact in a common virtual space. Dreams could be that server, an informational dimension where consciousnesses interact beyond the boundaries of waking reality. If this is true, then mutual dreams may not be accidents, but glimpses of a larger truth, that consciousness is fundamentally interconnected, capable of moving through dimensions we have yet to map. Critics of the parallel universe theory argue that dreams can be fully explained by the brain's ability to simulate. The brain is, after all, an extraordinary simulator. We don't need alternate universes to explain why dreams feel real. We just need to recognize how powerful our imagination is. But the counterpoint is that imagination itself is a mystery. Where does imagination come from? Why do dream worlds sometimes contain consistent laws, landscapes, and histories that seem too structured to be random? Why do people occasionally experience dreams that provide verifiable information they couldn't have known otherwise? Until we answer these questions, it remains possible that dreams are more than internal fabrications. Quantum entanglement also offers an intriguing parallel. When two particles are entangled, their states are linked, no matter how far apart they are in space. Change one, and the other changes instantly. This challenges the idea of locality and suggests that information can exist outside of space and time as we know it. Could consciousness itself operate in an entangled way? If so, then perhaps dreaming allows the mind to entangle with other versions of itself in parallel worlds. What we perceive as dream experiences might then be the result of entangled consciousness exchanging information across universes. Even the field of physics is slowly warming to the idea that consciousness must be included in our models of reality. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics, why observation collapses probabilities into definite outcomes, remains unsolved. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness plays a role in this process. If true, then consciousness is not just a passive observer, but an active participant in shaping reality. Dreams in this framework could be moments when consciousness shapes and explores realities beyond the waking one. The key takeaway is that dreams remain one of the most direct experiences we have of alternate realities, whether those realities are internal psychological landscapes or external universes. They remind us that reality is not as fixed and stable as we think. Dreams are laboratories of the mind, testing grounds where consciousness explores its own boundaries. Whether they connect us to parallel universes or not, they hint at the vast, untapped potential of the human mind and the hidden layers of the cosmos. If dreams can open doorways to parallel worlds, then understanding how this process might occur requires us to understand what the brain is doing while dreaming and what reality itself allows. First, let's look at brain function. During REM sleep, neural activity becomes highly synchronized. Certain regions of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex, are less active, while others, such as the limbic system, become more dominant. This creates a state where logic and linear reasoning are weakened, while emotional intensity and imagery are heightened. It is almost as though the brain relaxes its grip on rational reality, letting the subconscious flow freely. Scientists know that the visual cortex and hippocampus play key roles, stitching together memory fragments with internal simulations. Yet the intensity of dreaming suggests that something more than memory replay might be occurring. The question is, could this loosened brain state allow consciousness to operate beyond the usual constraints, tuning into realities that are normally hidden? We should consider how altered states of consciousness outside of dreaming reveal similar phenomena. People in deep meditation often report entering otherworldly realms filled with beings, landscapes, and patterns of light. Psychedelic experiences induced by substances like DMT or psilocybin produce visions that are strikingly similar to dream imagery. Some report entire universes unfolding before their eyes, with coherent rules and structures, despite having no prior knowledge of such worlds. If dreaming and psychedelics can both lead to experiences of alternate realities, it suggests that the brain can shift into states that make such perception possible. The similarities between these states across cultures and histories hint at a shared mechanism, perhaps the loosening of consciousness from the ordinary filter of waking life. Let's expand on this filter idea. Aldous Huxley, in his book The Doors of Perception, proposed that the brain functions as a reducing valve. Instead of generating consciousness, the brain filters a larger consciousness into a manageable stream, allowing us to focus on survival tasks in the physical world. In this view, when the filter loosens, whether in dreams, meditation, or psychedelics, we access more of reality, not less. Dreams, then, are not illusions, but glimpses into the wider field of existence, where parallel universes may reside. This aligns with a theory in cognitive science called predictive processing. The brain is constantly predicting incoming information and updating its model of the world. In waking life, sensory input tightly anchors these predictions, keeping us aligned with a stable external world. But in dreaming, sensory input is absent. The brain still predicts, but without anchors, it begins to explore wildly different scenarios. If parallel universes exist, then perhaps some of these predictions align not just with random imagination, but with actual external states, like a radio tuning into distant stations. Most of the time, the signal is static, but occasionally it locks onto something real. Some of the most mysterious dreams people experience are those of unknown places that later turn out to be real. Someone may dream of a city they have never visited, with specific streets and buildings, only to later discover such a place exists. Traditional explanations involve memory distortion or coincidence, but another possibility is that the dreamer momentarily aligned with another version of reality where they had been to that city, and the memory crossed over into this world. Such experiences, though rare, suggest that dreams could occasionally carry information from beyond the dreamer's own life. There's also the phenomenon of dream characters. Sometimes dream figures feel like mere projections of ourselves, but other times they appear autonomous, speaking and acting in ways we do not consciously control. Some people have recurring dream guides, characters who appear repeatedly across different dreams, offering advice or leading the dreamer through strange worlds. If dreams are simply random brain activity, why would these figures persist with such independence? Could they be aspects of ourselves, or could they be versions of other beings from parallel worlds intersecting with our own consciousness? If reality is multi-layered, then dream characters might not just be inventions, but encounters with consciousness from other realms. This leads to another angle, the simulation hypothesis. Proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom, the idea suggests that advanced civilizations could create simulations so sophisticated that the simulated beings within them would not know they were in a simulation. If our universe is a simulation, then dreams might be instances where the code glitches, or where our consciousness temporarily perceives alternate simulations. Dreams would then be like windows into other programs running on the same cosmic computer. The bizarre rules of dreams, the sudden shifts in logic, the blending of places and people, could reflect the way the simulation allows different data streams to bleed together. Even if we are not in a simulation, string theory offers another possible framework. String theory suggests that multiple dimensions beyond the familiar 3 of space and 1 of time may exist. These extra dimensions are normally hidden, curled up at scales too small to perceive. But in altered states of consciousness, including dreams, perhaps the mind is capable of perceiving these hidden dimensions directly. This could explain why dream environments sometimes feel both familiar and alien, with geometries and landscapes that defy normal physics. Dreams could be the consciousness brushing against higher dimensions, where alternate universes overlap. Time also behaves strangely in dreams, and this could be a clue to their deeper nature. In waking life, time feels linear, one moment after the next. But in dreams, time can loop, stretch, or collapse. You may live through days of dream events in only minutes of waking time. Some dreams allow you to move backward, revisiting earlier moments, or forward, glimpsing events not yet experienced. If parallel universes exist, each with their own timelines, then dream time might be a reflection of consciousness stepping outside the rigid chronology of this world. Instead of a straight line, time may be a vast landscape, and in dreams, we wander through it freely. One fascinating phenomenon is when people awaken from dreams with deep emotional memories of relationships that do not exist in waking life. They may recall spending years with a partner, raising children, or living in communities that vanish upon waking. The grief or longing they feel is real, even though the dream people are gone. Could this be evidence of consciousness temporarily inhabiting another version of life, complete with its own emotional bonds? If so, then dreams are not only windows into parallel universes, but temporary visits into the lives of our alternate selves. We can also look at dreams from the perspective of myth and archetype. Carl Jung suggested that the collective unconscious contains universal symbols shared by humanity. These archetypes, heroes, shadows, wise elders, tricksters, appear in myths across cultures and also populate dreams. Jung saw them as expressions of a deeper psychic reality. But if we take the parallel universe perspective, these archetypes might not just be symbols. They could represent actual figures that exist across multiple worlds, recurring patterns of consciousness that manifest in countless realities. Dreams would then be the stage where we encounter them directly, revealing truths that transcend a single lifetime. Skeptics rightly point out that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Right now, the evidence for dreams as windows into parallel universes is anecdotal, not scientific. But science itself is limited by the tools it has. We cannot yet measure consciousness directly, nor can we detect alternate universes if they exist. That doesn't mean they are not real, it means they are beyond our current reach. History shows that many phenomena once dismissed as superstition, like germs, electricity, or quantum mechanics, were later revealed to be fundamental truths. Dreams may one day be seen in the same way, as early evidence of a reality far larger than we currently imagine. For now, what we can say is that dreams continue to challenge our understanding of reality. They blur the boundary between imagination and perception, between self and other, between time and eternity. They remind us that the universe is stranger than we think, and that consciousness may not be confined to the narrow stream of waking life. Whether they are psychological simulations, symbolic journeys, or literal glimpses into parallel universes, dreams invite us to question everything we think we know about existence. Who are we when we dream? Are we the same self that navigates the waking world, or are we temporarily stepping into the roles of alternate versions of ourselves? This question touches not only on science and philosophy, but also on the deeply personal nature of human experience. Think about how often dreams shift our sense of self. Sometimes we dream as ourselves, with our waking memories intact. But other times we find ourselves in roles, jobs, or even bodies that are not our own. In the dream, it feels natural. We rarely question it until we wake and realize how strange it was. If the mind were simply generating random stories, why would it create identities so foreign to us? One explanation is that dreams give us temporary access to other versions of ourselves, versions that exist in parallel timelines. In those moments, we are not imagining another life, we are living it. This idea resonates with reports of people who experience recurring dream worlds. Across multiple dreams, they return to the same cities, landscapes, and social networks. These places have their own geography and continuity, with details that persist from dream to dream. Waking life may interrupt the narrative, but when they return, the world is still there, waiting for them. Psychologists may argue this is simply the mind reusing familiar settings, but some dreamers describe these worlds as more consistent than their waking memory would allow. Could it be that their consciousness really is visiting another stable reality, reconnecting with an alternate existence? Another angle to consider is how dreams affect our waking identity. When we wake from a vivid dream, we often carry the emotions of that dream into the day. A nightmare can leave us anxious, while a joyful dream can lift our spirits. Dreams can alter our perceptions of relationships, inspire creativity, or even change the course of our lives. This shows that the boundary between dream and waking self is porous. If dreams were purely imaginary, why would they hold such power over our waking behavior? Perhaps because they are not simply imaginary, they may be experiences of real significance, whether psychological or interdimensional. One of the most fascinating possibilities is that dreams allow us to communicate with alternate versions of ourselves. Imagine that there are countless versions of you across parallel universes, each making different choices, each living different lives. During dreams, your consciousness might overlap with theirs, sharing information across worlds. This could explain why dreams sometimes provide solutions to problems we cannot solve in waking life. Perhaps another version of you already solved it, and in the dream, you glimpsed their knowledge. This would make dreams not just private experiences, but part of a vast network of selves sharing across the multiverse. To explore this, we need to revisit the nature of memory. Neuroscience teaches that memory is not a fixed record, but a reconstruction. Every time we recall something, we rebuild it, often altering details. Dreams, however, sometimes present memories we cannot place. People dream of families they never had, homes they never lived in, or childhoods that differ from their own. These could be inventions of the brain, but they could also be bleed-through memories from alternate versions of self. If memory is a reconstruction, perhaps in dreams, the reconstruction draws from more than one source, blending fragments from multiple realities. The idea that identity is fluid across dreams also connects with mystical traditions. In some indigenous cultures, dreams are seen as travels of the soul, where the dreamer temporarily inhabits other worlds and even other forms of being. In Tibetan Buddhism, dream yoga is practiced as a way of recognizing the illusory nature of all experience, waking or dreaming. Practitioners learn to control their dreams, not for escapism, but for spiritual awakening. They see dreams as an opportunity to explore different layers of reality and to transcend the limits of a single identity. If dreams are truly portals, then these traditions may have been mapping the multiverse long before modern physics imagined it. Let's also consider the role of emotion. Dreams are often emotionally intense, sometimes even more so than waking life. Fear, love, grief, and joy can be amplified to overwhelming levels. Why would the brain create such powerful emotional simulations if dreams are meaningless? One answer is that emotions are the bridge that links us to these alternate selves. While specific details of another universe may be lost in translation, the emotions cross over. This is why we wake from dreams with feelings that are difficult to shake, as though they belong not only to us, but also to someone else we have been. Another phenomenon that deepens this mystery is false awakening. This occurs when you dream that you have woken up, only to later realize you are still dreaming. Sometimes this happens multiple times, creating layers of reality that feel increasingly convincing. In some cases, dreamers are unable to distinguish which layer is real until they finally wake in their actual bed. False awakenings highlight how fragile our sense of reality is and how easily consciousness can be tricked, or perhaps how easily it can shift between parallel worlds. If each false awakening is a temporary landing in another version of reality, then what we call waking up may simply be the return to our most familiar branch. We can also learn from stories of children and their dreams. Young children often report vivid dream experiences, sometimes describing places and people with astonishing detail. In some cases, they speak of past lives or worlds that seem far beyond their years. While skeptics attribute this to imagination, it may be that children are more open to alternate realities because their sense of self is not yet fully fixed. As we grow older, social conditioning and logical reasoning tighten the filter, reducing our ability to access these worlds. Dreams may be the last remaining window into that broader reality, one we all shared more freely as children. Lucid dreaming once again becomes important here. When people realize they are dreaming, they often report that the world around them becomes more vivid, not less. Colors sharpen, sounds intensify, and the environment becomes hyper-real. If dreams were only brain simulations, why would awareness increase their realism? Perhaps because awareness allows the dreamer to stabilize their consciousness in the alternate universe, anchoring them more deeply in that reality. This could explain why lucid dreamers sometimes describe exploring entire cities, interacting with characters who seem independent, and even learning information that later proves useful in waking life. Another perspective comes from the study of near-death experiences. People who undergo these experiences often describe leaving their bodies, entering other realms, and encountering beings of light or deceased loved ones. These experiences share similarities with dreams, particularly in their surreal yet coherent landscapes. If near-death experiences represent consciousness detaching from the physical body, then dreams may be miniature versions of the same process, a temporary loosening of the tether that keeps us anchored here. Both experiences suggest that consciousness has the capacity to move beyond ordinary reality and enter dimensions that feel equally real. We might also draw connections to the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. If particles can remain linked across vast distances, responding to each other instantaneously, then perhaps consciousness operates in a similar way. Dreams could be the moments when entangled versions of ourselves across the multiverse connect. In this view, every dream is a conversation with another self, a sharing of experiences across parallel lives. The content of the dream may be symbolic, distorted by the translation process, but the connection itself could be real. Skeptics will argue that such ideas are unprovable and speculative, and they are right, at least for now. Science has not yet found a way to measure or test these claims, but it is worth remembering that many phenomena were once beyond the reach of science. Electricity, radiation, and quantum mechanics were once mysterious, even ridiculed, until tools and theories advance enough to understand them. Dreams may be in the same category, mysteries that future science will one day explain, possibly revealing that our nightly journeys were never confined to imagination alone. For now, the question remains open. Are we simply simulating alternate identities in our dreams, or are we truly stepping into them? The answer may lie in the experiences themselves. For many people, dreams carry the weight of reality, shaping their waking lives in profound ways. They inspire art, reveal hidden truths, and sometimes even change the course of history. Whether or not they are literal windows into parallel universes, they are undeniably powerful forces in human life, and that power suggests that they deserve to be taken seriously, not dismissed as meaningless illusions. When people describe dreams, especially the more extraordinary ones, they often talk about places that feel architecturally stable, not just random, fleeting scenery. Streets lead to other streets. Buildings have layers of detail. Sometimes dreamers return to the same location across years of dreaming, and it is consistent down to the smallest elements. Why should this be the case if the brain is merely throwing out fragments of stored memories? One answer is that these landscapes may not be generated but accessed. In other words, the mind may be tuning in to another existing environment. This idea can be connected to the concept of the holographic universe. In this model, all of reality is like a vast projection of underlying information, much like a hologram. Every part of the hologram contains a whole, encoded in subtle ways. If our universe is indeed holographic, then dreams may be the moments when consciousness samples different parts of the hologram, catching glimpses of realities that exist alongside ours. In such a system, parallel universes are not distant places, but simply other ways the information can be arranged. Dreams could be the cracks where the light from those arrangements shines through. We can also think about dreams in terms of probability. Quantum theory suggests that reality is not fixed until observed, and that the universe exists in a superposition of possible states. In waking life, we collapse these possibilities into one reality through our choices and perceptions. But in dreams, the rules are looser. We are not bound by the same continuity of cause and effect. This is why strange, impossible things happen, and yet in the dream they feel natural. Perhaps this is because dreams are excursions into uncollapsed probabilities. We temporarily experience what might have been, or what could still be, in the vast spectrum of potential realities. Consider how this plays out in everyday dreams. Someone may dream of flying, not in an airplane, but simply soaring through the sky with no aid. In waking life, this is impossible given our physical laws, but in another reality governed by slightly different physics, perhaps it is ordinary. Dreams of flying may not be fantasies, but recollections from places where gravity behaves differently, or where consciousness has more direct influence over matter. If parallel universes exist with alternate laws of physics, then dreams may be the only place we encounter them directly. We can also bring in the concept of archetypes. Carl Jung proposed that human beings share a collective unconscious filled with universal symbols. Figures like the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the trickster. These archetypes appear in myths across cultures and in the dreams of people everywhere. But what if archetypes are not only psychological patterns, but also traces of realities where these figures exist? The universality of archetypes could be evidence that we are all dipping into the same underlying network, one that may connect not only human psyches, but also entire worlds. The dream of a wise guide could be the encounter with a being from another plane. The dream of the shadow could be a glimpse of our darker selves in another reality. Another angle to consider is time. In dreams, time behaves strangely. Minutes in waking life can stretch into hours of dream experience. Sometimes dreams even appear to jump across time entirely, showing us scenes from the past or visions of the future. If parallel universes exist where time flows differently, or not at all, dreams may be our contact points with those timelines. This could explain precognitive dreams, which are surprisingly common. Many people report dreaming of events before they occur, sometimes in vivid detail. These are often brushed off as coincidences, but perhaps they are glimpses into alternate branches of time, moments when our consciousness slips sideways into a timeline where the event has already unfolded. The idea that dreams can give access to the future is unsettling, but it is also empowering. If dreams can show us what may happen, it suggests that time is not fixed, but flexible. Perhaps by paying attention to our dreams, we can make different choices, altering our path. In this sense, dreams could serve as navigational tools, not only revealing alternate realities, but also guiding us through them. The future may not be predetermined, but woven from the interplay of countless possibilities, some of which we encounter in dream states. To make this more concrete, think about how many great discoveries and works of art have come from dreams. Paul McCartney heard the melody of Yesterday in a dream. Dmitri Mendeleev saw the periodic table laid out in his sleep. Elias Howe dreamed of the solution to the sewing machine's needle. These are not isolated incidents. History is full of them. How do we explain this? One explanation is that the subconscious mind worked out the solution and presented it in dream form. But another possibility is that these dreamers tapped into realities where the solution already existed and brought it back. Their dreams were not just creative processes, but actual journeys into parallel states where knowledge was available. Let us also consider the phenomenon of shared dreams. Though controversial, there are reports of two or more people dreaming of the same place, events, or conversations. Couples have claimed to meet each other in dreams and recall the same details afterward. Friends and family members report overlapping dream experiences, sometimes when they are sleeping far apart. If dreams are purely private brain activity, this should not be possible. But if dreams connect to real alternate spaces, then multiple people could indeed enter the same realm, much like logging into a shared virtual environment. This would imply that dreams are not only individual but collective, and that parallel universes may be populated with shared structures that many can access. A related mystery is the dream character. Often in dreams we meet figures who feel autonomous, as though they have their own thoughts and personalities. Sometimes they surprise us, saying or doing things we would never have imagined. Who are these beings? Are they fragments of our own mind, or are they independent entities? If dreams open doors to parallel universes, then dream characters may be the inhabitants of those worlds. When we interact with them, we are not talking to ourselves, but engaging with consciousnesses that exist apart from us. This would explain why they sometimes feel wiser, more knowledgeable, or more real than the dreamer themselves. Let's go further. Some dreamers report being tested, challenged, or even taught by figures in their dreams. These dream teachers sometimes present lessons that shape the dreamer's life, guiding them in ways that persist long after waking. If dreams are simply inner stories, why would they take the form of education or mentorship? But if dreams are encounters with real beings in other realities, then the idea of dream teachers makes sense. Perhaps they are counterparts, guides, or even beings that exist solely in dream realms, tasked with helping consciousness grow. The border between dreams and altered states of consciousness is also important. People who use certain plant medicines or engage in deep meditation often describe experiences that closely resemble dreams, vivid visions, journeys to other worlds, encounters with strange beings. Yet they are not asleep when these occur. This suggests that dreams are not fundamentally different from these altered states, but rather another way the brain accesses expanded consciousness. Whether through sleep, meditation, or other means, the mind can step outside the narrow channel of waking reality and into the wider field of existence. This reinforces the idea that dreams are real experiences, not hallucinations. One of the strongest arguments for dreams as glimpses into parallel realities is their persistence. Some dreamers describe lifelong series of dreams set in the same world, with ongoing stories and developments. These dream worlds evolve, change, and grow in ways too complex to be explained by random brain activity. In fact, they often mirror the stability of waking life with recurring characters, consistent geography, and ongoing relationships. If these were mere inventions, why would they display the kind of internal logic and durability associated with real places? The simplest explanation may be that they are real places, and the dreamer is truly visiting them. Skeptics will point to neuroscience, noting that brain scans show activity in specific regions during dreaming. They argue this proves that dreams are products of the brain, but this does not rule out the possibility of dreams being portals. After all, the brain is active when we perceive waking reality too, yet we do not conclude that waking life is unreal. Brain activity may be the medium through which consciousness experiences reality, but it does not prove that the experience is generated by the brain alone. Just as the television does not create the broadcast but receives it, the brain may not create dreams but tune into them. This suggests that we are not confined to a single reality, but a part of a vast network of worlds, each accessible through consciousness. It implies that our identity is not fixed but fluid, capable of inhabiting many versions of self. And it invites us to treat dreams not as random byproducts of sleep, but as meaningful journeys into the larger cosmos. We are left with a mystery that is both scientific and spiritual. Science can study the brain activity, the patterns, the probabilities. Spirituality can interpret the symbols, the lessons, the connections. But perhaps the full truth lies somewhere between. Dreams may be the place where science and spirit meet, where the measurable and the mystical overlap. In that overlap, we may find the key to understanding not only dreams, but the universe itself. Every second, our brains filter an enormous amount of sensory data. The eyes, ears, and other senses bring in information, but we only perceive a fraction of it consciously. This filtering process helps us function without being overwhelmed, but it also means that much of reality is hidden from us. Dreams may be one of the few times when this filter relaxes, allowing the mind to tune into layers of existence usually beyond our reach. This idea gains support when we look at altered perception in waking life. Under extreme conditions such as sensory deprivation, fever, or meditation, people report vivid visions, encounters, and otherworldly experiences. Many of these resemble dream states, with surreal landscapes and encounters with beings that feel real. What if dreams are simply the brain entering this expanded mode naturally, without the need for external triggers? If so, they could be a built-in feature of consciousness, giving us regular contact with realities outside the waking filter. Another important dimension is the way dreams can blur identity. Sometimes we are ourselves in dreams. Other times we are someone else entirely. We might dream we are a child again, or that we are a stranger with no connection to our waking identity. These experiences are often detailed, complete with histories, relationships, and emotions that feel authentic. If dreams were purely inventions, why would the mind create such elaborate identities for us to inhabit? Perhaps because they are not inventions, but temporary mergers with parallel selves. In the vast multiverse, countless versions of us exist, each shaped by different choices and circumstances. Dreams may be the moments when those versions overlap. This merging of identities could also explain why some dreams feel so meaningful. A dream in which we live an entire lifetime in another body, only to wake up and realize it lasted minutes, can leave us with deep emotional imprints. The grief of losing that dream family, the joy of experiencing that dream love, or the awe of discovering dream knowledge can stay with us forever. If those were merely imaginary scenarios, would they affect us so profoundly? The depth of feeling suggests that at some level, these experiences are real. They may belong to alternate lives we touch briefly, lives that continue even when we wake. The experience of déjà vu offers another clue. Many people have had the uncanny sense that they are reliving a moment, as though it has happened before. Sometimes they can trace this sensation back to a dream they had earlier. They dreamed of a place, a conversation, or an event, and later encountered it in waking life. How can this be explained? If dreams are explorations of parallel realities, then déjà vu could be the recognition of overlap between them. In the dream, we experience the event in one timeline, and in waking life, we encounter its counterpart in another. The eerie familiarity is the memory of traveling between worlds. Some dream researchers have noted that the dream state resembles the liminal spaces described in folklore. Many cultures speak of realms that exist between worlds. The twilight lands, the shadow realms, the places where the veil is thin. These are often described as the places where spirits move, where ancestors can be contacted, and where hidden truths are revealed. Dreams may be our modern equivalent of these liminal spaces, the natural portals built into the rhythm of human life. Every night we step into this borderland, where ordinary rules bend and the extraordinary becomes possible. Another fascinating phenomenon is the way dreams can heal. People who process trauma in dreams often find themselves less burdened in waking life. They confront fears, reconcile with lost loved ones, or symbolically resolve conflicts. Some even report physical healing after vivid dream experiences. If dreams were purely imaginary, why would they have such measurable effects on the body and mind? One possibility is that dreams allow us to connect with versions of ourselves in parallel realities who have already healed. By touching those realities, we draw some of that healing into our own. This would make dreams not only diagnostic tools for the psyche, but active agents of transformation across dimensions. We should also consider how technology intersects with dreaming. Devices that measure brainwaves, stimulate lucid dreaming, or record dreamlike imagery are advancing rapidly. If these technologies improve, we may one day map dream landscapes with the same precision we map the physical world. Imagine being able to confirm that different people accessed the same dream location, or that dream geography remains consistent across nights. Such discoveries would challenge the idea that dreams are purely private fantasies. They would support the theory that dreams are shared realities, existing independently of any one dreamer. The connection between dreams and creativity offers another compelling clue. Dreams often bypass the limits of logic, presenting images and solutions that the waking mind would never conceive. Artists, writers, and scientists have all drawn inspiration from dreams. But perhaps creativity is not simply invention, perhaps it is transmission. In dreams, we may be accessing realities where these ideas already exist, and creativity is the act of bringing them into our own world. This would mean that every great work of art or discovery may already exist somewhere in the multiverse, and dreaming is the bridge that allows it to cross over. The symbolic nature of dreams also deserves attention. Dreams often speak in metaphors, presenting messages through imagery rather than direct language. Some interpret this as the subconscious mind's way of communicating. But what if it is the result of translating experiences from other realities into a form our waking brain can understand? Just as a radio distorts a signal if it is not tuned properly, our brain may distort the content of parallel experiences, reshaping them into symbols. A dream of a locked door may not literally mean a door, but may represent an inaccessible path in another world. Understanding dream symbolism may require us to think not only in psychological terms, but in interdimensional ones. Dreams also invite us to question the meaning of consciousness itself. If our awareness can detach from waking identity and roam through other realities, then consciousness cannot be a byproduct of the brain alone. It must be something larger, capable of transcending time and space. This idea aligns with reports from people who experience out-of-body states, near-death experiences, or mystical visions. They describe leaving the body, moving freely through environments, and encountering beings who exist independently. Dreams may be the everyday version of this phenomenon, so common that we overlook its extraordinary implications. The role of intention in dreaming is another mystery. When people set intentions before sleeping, whether to solve a problem, receive guidance, or meet someone, they often find that their dreams respond. This suggests that dreaming is not random, but interactive. Our consciousness participates in shaping where we go and what we experience. If dreams were only chaotic brain activity, intention should not matter. But if dreams are explorations of parallel spaces, then intention may function like steering a vehicle, directing us toward certain paths. This raises the possibility that we can actively navigate the multiverse through dreams. Even nightmares fit into this framework. They may not simply be the brain processing fear, but encounters with difficult realities or challenging versions of ourselves. Facing these nightmares may be a way of integrating those experiences, drawing strength and wisdom from them. In this sense, nightmares are not punishments, but opportunities, just as struggles in waking life are opportunities for growth. By embracing them, we may gain insights that extend beyond our own timeline. What makes dreams especially powerful is that they blur the line between the subjective and the objective. They feel intensely personal, shaped by our emotions and memories, yet they also connect us to realities that seem to exist beyond us. They are both inner and outer, both illusion and truth. This duality makes them difficult to categorize, but it may also point to their true nature. They are bridges. Bridges between the conscious and subconscious, between self and other, between this world and countless others. In waking life, if we walked through a wall, we would immediately recognize it as impossible. But in a dream, moving through solid matter often feels natural. The mind doesn't rebel, it accepts the new rule without question. Why does consciousness adapt so seamlessly to impossible conditions? One answer is that these conditions are not impossible at all. They are simply the laws of the reality we are visiting at the time. Think about the dream landscapes where gravity behaves differently, where distances stretch or collapse, or where time folds in on itself. These are not random errors of the brain, but may be glimpses into universes governed by alternate rules. In some of these places, flying may be natural. In others, time may not flow in a straight line. The diversity of dream physics could reflect the diversity of realities within the multiverse. Our brain, trying to make sense of these laws, stitches them into the narrative of a dream, but at their core, they may represent genuine experiences of other worlds. Another striking feature is the emotional depth of dreams. A dream love can feel as powerful as a waking romance, sometimes even more so. A dream tragedy can leave grief so raw it lingers for days. If these emotions were purely fabrications, why do they carry the same weight as waking experiences? It may be because they are not fabrications. They may be the emotions of our alternate selves, bleeding through into our awareness. In dreams, we may temporarily merge with those selves, sharing their joys and sorrows. Waking up feels like separation, the painful tearing apart of lives we were fully inhabiting only moments before. Recurring dreams highlight this further. Some people find themselves in the same dream city, school, or workplace over and over, across years or even decades. The details of these places remain consistent, evolving gradually as though they are real locations in which life continues between visits. For example, a person may dream repeatedly of a particular street corner, noticing that shops change ownership, that buildings decay or are repaired, that new characters appear. These consistencies mirror waking reality too closely to be dismissed as random. Could it be that these dreamscapes are genuine parallel environments, and that the dreamer has a recurring connection to them? Now let's explore the phenomenon of dream characters. Many people report meeting individuals in dreams who feel independent and self-aware. Sometimes these figures offer advice, reveal information, or even challenge the dreamer in ways the dreamer would never invent. Who are these beings? From a psychological perspective, they may be aspects of our subconscious given form. But from a multiverse perspective, they could be real inhabitants of other worlds, encountered during our nightly travels. The fact that some of these figures appear across multiple dreams, and even across the dreams of different people, suggests that they may not be illusions at all, but genuine consciousnesses. The theme of teaching and guidance in dreams also adds weight to this theory. Throughout history, people have reported being instructed in dreams, taught skills, given solutions, or shown new knowledge. These dream teachers sometimes appear wise and authoritative, as though their role is to guide. If dreams are portals, then perhaps these guides are beings who live in other realms, but have access to ours through the dream state. They may even view our dreaming consciousness as an opportunity to pass along wisdom that our waking minds might otherwise ignore. Shared dreams push this idea even further. Reports exist of multiple people dreaming of the same events or meeting each other within dreams. When they wake, they confirm details that should not be possible if dreams are entirely private. Skeptics often dismiss this as coincidence, but what if it is not? If dreams connect to shared spaces in parallel universes, then two or more consciousnesses could indeed meet there. These shared experiences would be evidence that dreams are not closed systems, but open doorways. Another question is how dreams sometimes foreshadow future events. People often dream of conversations, accidents, or discoveries before they occur in waking life. These precognitive dreams suggest that time in the dream state does not flow in the same way as waking time. From the multiverse perspective, the dreamer may be glimpsing a timeline in which the event has already unfolded. When the waking world aligns with that timeline, the dream appears prophetic. This could mean that dreams not only connect us to alternate spaces, but also to alternate times, giving us a wider view of reality than waking perception allows. Consider also the strange elasticity of dream time. A few minutes of sleep can contain hours or even years of dream experience. People report living entire lifetimes in dreams, only to wake and realize that only a short period passed. How is this possible? If dreams are alternate realities, then time within them may operate on a completely different scale. We may be entering timelines where consciousness experiences events at a faster or slower rate. When we return to waking reality, our brain compresses or expands the memory to fit our own temporal framework. This could explain why dream experiences feel long but are brief by the clock. From a scientific angle, we know that dreams correlate with specific brainwave states, particularly REM sleep. During these periods, the brain shows activity similar to waking consciousness. Some researchers argue this proves dreams are internal. But it could also prove the opposite, that the brain is acting as a receiver, tuning into external realities. Just as radio waves become music when interpreted by a receiver, alternate realities could become dreams when interpreted by the brain. The activity we observe in brain scans may not be the source of the dream, but the process of decoding it. The parallels between dreams and altered states of consciousness reinforce this interpretation. People using meditation, sensory deprivation, or psychedelics often describe experiences that are indistinguishable from dreams. They see vivid worlds, interact with beings, and gain insights that feel real. If these experiences are access points to alternate realities, then dreams may be the natural, nightly form of the same process. This would mean that consciousness has multiple ways of stepping outside ordinary reality, with dreaming being the most universal and accessible. Dreams also raise the possibility that our lives are interconnected across multiple dimensions. If we can experience ourselves as others, live different lives, or share moments with parallel selves, then individuality may be an illusion. Instead, we may be nodes in a vast network of consciousness, each node experiencing reality from a different angle. Dreams allow these nodes to connect, sharing data across timelines. This view transforms dreams from personal stories into cosmic communications. Even nightmares can be reframed in this light. Instead of being random expressions of fear, nightmares may be encounters with darker timelines or more difficult versions of ourselves. Facing them may allow us to integrate the lessons of those realities, bringing balance into our waking life. For example, a recurring nightmare of being chased may reflect a self in another world facing constant danger. By confronting the nightmare, we symbolically resolve that struggle, bringing peace to both selves. Some traditions have long embraced this view. Indigenous cultures around the world see dreams as journeys of the soul. They are not imagined, but traveled. The dreamer steps out of their body and into other realms, where they may meet ancestors, spirits, or other selves. These traditions treat dreams with reverence, using them for guidance, healing, and decision-making. Far from dismissing them as illusions, they honor them as real experiences. Modern science may one day converge with these ancient understandings, recognizing dreams as explorations of reality's hidden dimensions. Finally, let us reflect on how dreams shape our waking creativity and choices. Artists, inventors, and thinkers throughout history have drawn directly from dreams. These creations change the waking world, proving that dreams have tangible impact. If dreams are access to parallel realities, then our world is constantly being reshaped by the knowledge we bring back. Every song, invention, or idea inspired by dreams may be a piece of another universe woven into our own. In this sense, dreaming is not passive, it is active participation in the ongoing evolution of reality. The conclusion is difficult to escape. Dreams may not be confined to the mind at all. They may be the nightly frontier of human exploration, where consciousness roams freely across the multiverse, bringing back fragments of infinite lives. We may dismiss them upon waking, but their echoes linger in our emotions, our art, our science, and our sense of self. Dreams whisper that we are far more than we seem, that reality is vaster than we imagine, and that each night we step into worlds that challenge the boundaries of existence itself. As we move further into the exploration of dreams and their possible connection to parallel universes, it becomes clear that one of the greatest mysteries lies in the boundary between waking and dreaming. This threshold, the moment of falling asleep or waking up, is often overlooked, yet it holds profound clues about the nature of consciousness itself. In these moments, people frequently experience vivid flashes of imagery, sounds, or even entire scenes, known as hypnagogic and hypnopompic states. These fragments feel less like dreams and more like brief transmissions from other realities, breaking through as our consciousness shifts channels. If dreams are portals, then these in-between states may be the doors swinging open or closed, offering us quick peeks into the multiverse. Let's look more closely at how the brain might facilitate this. Neuroscientists have observed that during these states, the brain produces unusual patterns of electrical activity, as though networks normally separated are suddenly communicating. This merging could allow consciousness to step outside its usual boundaries, momentarily tuning into overlapping frequencies of existence. It would be similar to a radio receiver picking up multiple stations at once. In such moments, it's not that the mind is inventing strange experiences, but that it is suddenly sensitive to realities it usually ignores. Consider the strange phenomenon of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming and can sometimes exert control over the environment. From one perspective, this is simply a trick of self-awareness. But from another, it may be evidence that consciousness can bring waking logic into alternate realities, bending the rules within them. If lucid dreams occur in genuine parallel universes, then gaining lucidity might allow us to actively interact with those worlds. The dreamer becomes not just a passive observer, but an explorer, capable of experimenting within foreign dimensions. Some lucid dreamers describe building entire civilizations within their dreams, returning night after night to continue shaping those worlds. If these spaces were purely imaginary, it would be strange that they retain consistency and evolve logically over time. But if they are real alternate domains, then the dreamer is effectively colonizing another world, leaving their mark on its development. This raises fascinating ethical questions. Do our actions in dream worlds matter? Do they affect real beings who live there? And if so, what responsibilities do we carry as visitors from another dimension? We can also draw on the accounts of near-death experiences, which often parallel dream states. People who come close to death report entering realms of light, meeting other beings, or experiencing life reviews. These reports bear striking similarities to dreams, yet they occur during moments when the brain is shutting down. If the brain were the sole generator of dreams, we would not expect such vivid and consistent experiences at the brink of death. Instead, these reports suggest that consciousness naturally extends beyond the body, slipping into realities similar to those encountered in dreams. The overlap between near-death experiences and dreaming strengthens the argument that both are portals into the multiverse. Another dimension to consider is the role of memory. Dreams often blend pieces of waking life into their landscapes, but they also introduce elements we've never encountered: unknown people, unfamiliar places, unimagined objects. Where do these come from? Some psychologists argue they are composites built by the brain, but the detail and coherence of many such elements suggest otherwise. If dreams tap into parallel universes, then these new people and places are not inventions at all, but genuine memories from alternate lives we live elsewhere. Each night, fragments of those lives are stitched into the dream narrative, blending with our waking identity to create something that feels both familiar and foreign. This raises the possibility that what we call déjà vu may be related to dream parallel connections. Many people experience the eerie sensation that they have lived a moment before, even though they know it is impossible. Traditional explanations range from memory glitches to delayed brain processing. But what if déjà vu occurs because we have already experienced that moment in a parallel universe, often through a dream? When the waking world aligns with the alternate memory, the feeling of recognition emerges. This would mean that dreams are not just previews of parallel lives, but the very reason déjà vu exists. Let's not forget how technology has begun to blur the lines between dreams and external reality. Researchers have experimented with ways to influence dreams, such as presenting sounds, smells, or even simple signals to the sleeper. Astonishingly, dreamers often incorporate these stimuli directly into their dream world. This suggests that the dream state is highly receptive to information from outside itself. If scientists can transmit signals into dreams, perhaps dreams can transmit signals outwards too. Communication between universes might already be happening every night, hidden within the chaos of our sleeping minds. Cultural traditions across the globe support this notion of dreams as real journeys. In Tibetan Buddhism, for example, practitioners engage in dream yoga, where the goal is to maintain awareness during dreams and use them as tools for enlightenment. They see dreams not as illusions, but as access points to higher realities. Similarly, in many Native American traditions, dreams are considered sacred messages from other realms, offering guidance and knowledge. The consistency of these beliefs across cultures suggests that humanity has long intuited that dreams are more than private stories. They are shared experiences with deeper meaning. Now let's shift focus to the mechanics of multiverse theory itself. One major branch of thought in physics is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which proposes that every possible outcome of every event actually occurs, branching into countless universes. If this is true, then our consciousness may have counterparts in each branch, living out alternate versions of our lives. Dreams could be the mind's way of sampling these lives, momentarily syncing with another branch of the multiverse. This would explain why dream experiences often feel like real lives, because they are real, just not in the universe we usually occupy. Another intriguing concept is the holographic principle, which suggests that the universe itself is like a projection, with all information encoded on a vast cosmic surface. If this is correct, then dreams could be moments when consciousness accesses different parts of the projection, tuning into encoded realities outside our waking perspective. In this view, dreams are not escapes from reality, but direct engagements with the fundamental structure of existence. Each dream becomes a holographic fragment of the larger whole, showing us that reality is layered and multidimensional. Synchronicity, the phenomenon of meaningful coincidences, also deserves mention here. People often find connections between their dreams and waking life events, as though the dream prepared them for what was to come. These synchronicities blur the line between dream and reality, suggesting that both are woven into the same underlying pattern. From the multiverse perspective, synchronicities may occur when different realities momentarily align, creating overlaps we perceive as coincidences. Dreams serve as the bridge, alerting us to these intersections before they fully manifest in waking life. We must also acknowledge the role of imagination. Humans are unique in their ability to envision worlds beyond their immediate surroundings. But where does imagination draw its raw material from? Dreams often seed the imagination with strange images and stories, many of which later inspire art, literature, and invention. If dreams connect to parallel universes, then imagination is not mere fantasy, but translation. The process of bringing glimpses of other realities into creative expression. The worlds we dream of may inspire the worlds we build, uniting the multiverse through art and thought. Even scientific progress has been influenced by dreams. The discovery of the molecular structure of benzene, the invention of the sewing machine, and even aspects of mathematical theory have been attributed to insights gained in dreams. If dreams were purely random, their contribution to such breakthroughs would be puzzling. But if they are windows into other realities, then it makes sense. Dreamers may be tapping into universes where solutions already exist, borrowing them and applying them to our world. This transforms dreams into engines of innovation, quietly shaping human progress. Philosophically, this all forces us to reconsider what it means to be conscious. Are we single beings, confined to one life and one timeline? Or are we vast networks of selves, scattered across realities, bound together by threads of awareness that converge in the dream state? Dreams suggest the latter, that our identity is fluid, extending far beyond what we perceive when awake. We are not just who we are here and now, but who we are everywhere and always. Each dream expands the perimeter of the self, reminding us that we are participants in a cosmic web of consciousness. The mystery of dreams invites us to keep asking questions, to remain curious and open. If they are indeed glimpses into parallel universes, then each dream we have is not just a personal experience, but a cosmic journey. We may wake and forget, but the echoes remain, shaping our lives in ways we may never fully recognize. Every night, the multiverse opens its gates, and our consciousness steps through, exploring the infinite possibilities of existence. As we bring together all these threads of thought, let us reflect on what makes dreams so profoundly mysterious. They are not merely stories generated by a resting brain. They are immersive realities, full of detail, emotion, and consequence. They allow us to fly without wings, to meet people we've never known, to live lifetimes in minutes. They challenge our definitions of self, time, and reality itself. And most of all, they invite us to consider that perhaps we are not as confined as we imagine. Consciousness may stretch far beyond the borders of our physical lives, roaming into worlds that exist alongside ours, hidden until we close our eyes. One of the most powerful aspects of dreaming is its ability to dissolve boundaries. In a dream, the boundary between self and other blurs. We can embody different identities, see the world through other perspectives, and merge with landscapes or even abstract forces. This suggests that consciousness is not rigid but fluid, capable of flowing into forms beyond our usual body and mind. If we accept that dreams may be glimpses into parallel universes, then what we are seeing is not just imagination, but evidence that consciousness can occupy multiple realities at once. The self, in this sense, is not a single point, but a spectrum of existence. Even our most intimate experiences of dreaming point to something beyond the ordinary. Think of how real a dream can feel, how a kiss, a conversation, or a tragedy can strike us with the same force as waking events. The brain may insist it was an illusion, but the heart does not distinguish. It carries the memory as though it were real, and in many ways it was. For the dreamer in that moment, it was life. And if parallel universes exist, then those moments are not gone, but continue to unfold elsewhere, lived by other versions of us who never woke from them. When we awaken, the veil descends again. The multiverse recedes and we find ourselves back in the familiar, ordinary world. But the echoes remain. Sometimes they appear as fragments of memory, sometimes as déjà vu, sometimes as sudden inspiration. These echoes whisper that what we experienced was real, even if we cannot fully grasp it. They remind us that reality is not confined to what we can touch and measure. It is layered, infinite, and interconnected.